Hi, so first of all, I'm a self-taught artist. I've only learned from YouTube and research. I mostly learned from Jundi. This is their channel. First of all, I'll be telling you the frequent tools you'll use for a painting. This is MediBang. It might look too much at first, but you'll get used to it. So these are the tools. This is the brush tool, eraser, move tool, and selection tool. So these are the brushes I have. MediBang also provides downloadable brushes in their website. For sketch, I use pencil of course. Pen and pen sharp are for more defined lines. Airbrush is what I use for blending because it has soft edges and it feathers out. For watercolor, I use this for the base because it has more solid outcome. It also color mix like a traditional watercolor. Blur, smudge, fur, and oil pastel are for details you'll see further out in the video. And these are the brush preview, brush control, size, and opacity. This is the color wheel. This is the navigation tool where you can zoom manually, but I use my keyboard to zoom. This is a color palette. I like saving my colors here, but right now I only have a skin tone palette. This is the layer section where you can adjust the opacity, have it on other blending settings. So protect alpha, clipping, and lock I'll be talking about throughout the video. For layers, this is how you add a new layer. And the important parts here in the layer section is the add layer, the folder, duplicate, and merge down. This is how you merge down. And then you group. For the other tools, it's still important, but for basics, so you won't get overwhelmed, that's all I will talk about first. For reference images, I use Pinterest. This art style is semi-realism, so the sketch isn't the highlight of the painting. I'll be spinning up my sketch. I use pencil to start my rough sketch. This will only serve as a guide of my real sketch, so it's very out of the place. Also, when sketching, try to always flip your drawing to see if it's proportionate. I use my arrow keys to flip. This is the more refined sketch. I just cleaned out the lines, especially the hair. The eyes are more detailed, also the accessories are complete. Now with the coloring, make sure your sketch is always on the top of the layers. I like coloring messily first to have a sneak peek of the final color outcome. For skin, I chose a peachy color that has a red-orange undertone. And the hair is supposed to be black, but I chose violet to be the undertone. So it won't just be gray and white. The other colors are based on the original character drawing. Whenever I add or use another color, I try to make a palette on the side so I won't lose the main color when I start blending. As you can see, towards the end, I started cleaning out the skin color. I will now start shading the face. First, I like having a solid colored background to really see what I'm doing. So this is the base skin color. I will add a new layer above it, then clip it. Clipping would allow you to paint over the previous layer without going beyond the below layer. I will select airbrush and a darker color of the same range undertone. I would put the darker color where there is depth on the face. For the eyes, I'll add a new layer above the current one, then clip it again. and start shading the eyes. For the shadows, I chose a very dark color, then started placing the shadows on the scene area. I tried to do the other side at the same time for it to be aligned. Now we will blend it, still with airbrush. To blend it out, choose the eyedropper tool. You can just press I on your keyboard. Drop it on the sides of the darker color and switch out with your brush and then blend. Keep adding different colors for shadows and always change from eyedropper tool to your brush to blend out the colors seamlessly. For highlights, I just choose a lighter color from the skin tone and put it on the shown areas, commonly below the eyebrows and the inner eyes and the eyelids. Then blend it out like how you blend the eyes. And now blending the face with the same method. I did the same thing on the other side but off camera. Now getting closer to the eye itself, I blended the eyelids more with the same brush. I also added more shadows and highlights. Then I chose a white gray with blue undertone for the white of the eyes. When coloring the eye, this is where I really start to shape the eyes, so I continuously zoom out and flip to see how it looks on the face. When I start doing the iris, I will try to sketch where I want my iris to be placed. I use a dark brown for sketch. My character has blue eyes, so for the base color, I'll use blue. Then I'll add the darker blue on the top part of the iris and a lighter color on the bottom, and then blend. For the pupil, I just chose black and airbrush. Keep adding shadows and highlights and then keep blending until you're satisfied. Now for the outer parts of the eye, lower the opacity of your sketch then outline with a dark brown, where lines would be prominent on a normal eye. I make the eye line with a wing to make it feminine. So for details, I add red on the teardrops and the bottom waterline. I also add purple on the left side of the iris and then blend with the same eyedropper technique. For lashes, I use another clip layer above then set my correction to a higher level. I use pen sharp with color black. I start my lines from the middle then flick my hands to the direction I want the lashes to go. The bottom lashes are more thinner and separated. I use smudge tool at the ends of the lashes to smooth it out. And lastly, for highlight, I use white and place it on the top left of the pupil and the sides. Also in the bottom of the waterline. I did the same thing on the other side of the eyes but off camera. For lips, it's pretty simple. First, I fixed the lip sketch to be more symmetrical. Then I filled it with baby pink. And I used brown to draw the lip line in the middle, then selected Protect Alpha to be able to only shade on the current layer. I picked a darker color, then shade the outside part of the lips. Then I blend it out. I went on and placed a gray on the side of the lips. Final touch is, I used smudge tool to extend the smile, and using white color, I highlighted the right side of the lips. So, I'll repaint the hair with the same hair color but now with using pen sharp. I set my correction on the higher level for the lines to be more fluid. I followed the flow of my sketch and kept changing the size of my brush. And since my brush opacity isn't on 100%, the every stroke has a different opacity, creating shadows. I added extra flying strands on the edges, not too much though, and also I cleaned out the edges already. For defining the clothes, I mostly put the shadow on the side of the material. So Protect Alpha your layer, then shade with airbrush using a darker pink. With the lines of the kimono inside, I used gray for the lines and also added a dark pink above the gray shadow. All of the accessories has a shadow on the left side and a darker outline overall. The headband, however, has more golden shadow and it includes an inner shadow. The highlights are between the lines. The design of the accessories are from the original character reference. For highlights, I mostly highlighted only the right side of the drawing. For the hair, add first a new layer above the hair layer and clip it. Now for the shadows of the hair. I only added black and light violet for the hair in front within the accessories to enhance it. And the left side of the hair, I shadowed it with black, and the right side of the hair, I highlighted it with violet. So I decided to change the nose. First, I recolored the nose part, then went up to the sketch layer and drew a triangle. This would serve as the nose bridge. Then I drew a thick M under the triangle. And on the inner parts of the M, those will serve as the nostrils. Now that the shape of the nose is already there, I started highlighting the nose bridge, the bottom nose, and the inner parts of the M with a light shade. Also put a sheer light shade on the side of the nose. For the nostril, I chose a dark reddish color. And of course, blend. So with a darker color, proceed on contouring the nose, which is the bridge part and the sides of the nostrils. And now that the basic colors are down, blend it with the same technique. Now it's all done. As you can see, I fixed the nose a bit more. I made it thicker, but that's all. And now we will do the final touches. First, I created this background. This background, I only did was select a color. And to achieve this texture, use a fluffy watercolor, the wet one, and adjust it to the biggest size brush, and then select a lighter color, and then just randomly brush it out, and however you like it. And that's how I got this background. So I created this layer here, as you can see. This creates the shadow. This is optional. If you want it, you can just add it. So this part, this part I did was I chose a blue color and then painted over, just like this. So I'm gonna choose a color and then using airbrush, and then painted in this side there, and then I selected multiply. Here in the blending section, select multiply there, and then lower the opacity there. Now it creates a shadow on the left side. And for the highlights, this is the highlights. So what I did here was, again with the same shade of blue, I just colored this side. Okay, just color this side. So here in the highlight part, on your layer, for blending, choose screen, and then adjust your opacity. And for this, and for the middle, the same thing, color the same shade of blue in the middle, and then for this layer, select overlay, and then adjust the opacity. You can just play around with the blending section. It doesn't make that much difference, but I just like an extra shadow. For the face, as you can see, the face looks alright already, but for me it's kind of pale. So what I did is I add a new layer above it and then clip it. So I choose a reddish orange color and then paint it over and then put it on the layer. And then on the layer, select soft light on the blending option there, and then adjust the opacity. Now as you can see, and this is without and this is with, without, without. So it just adds more saturation, because if I put a filter over it, the shading on the eyes would just disappear, and I didn't work hard for it to just disappear. And the next thing I added for the final touch is this shadow behind the hairs. What I did here is selected pen sharp with black color, And then colored the correction, I set it on a high level, and then just go through under the hair strands where shadows should be, just like that. And then use blur tool, and I blurred them. I blurred the shadows to the skin. Then lowered its opacity. If you'll be posting it online or on your social media, it's your choice if you want to put watermark and some details. I wanted to put watermarks, so I used the text tool and just typed out my social medias here where I posted the art. And then I added text. This is based from what kind of character she is. Her name. This is her name in Japanese, and with that, that's all. This is the final product, and I hope this guide helped you somehow. Thank you for watching.